sé que estamos hablando en español. My ponencia is actually in English, but and I have a lot of images, so it's a largely visual presentation as well. And so the title is Eloy de la Iglesia's Murder in a Blue World, the English translation of the film, 1973, Spain's A Clockwork Orange. And as I get into the paper, you'll see that the title is actually misleading. So you'll see, I don't think that it's Spain's A Clockwork Orange. Okay, so there's been a surge in interest in the cinema of Basque director Eloy de la Iglesia following his death in 2006, particularly with his juvenile delinquent or kinky films of the early 1980s and the political erotic works of the late 1970s. What critics have largely overlooked is his output from 1971 to 73, 4 films that were labeled and marketed as thrillers, but that are in fact closer to the genres of horror or Spanish giallo. Severin Films released Blu-ray editions of both La Semana del Asesino, which was translated in English to Cannibal Man, and Nadie Oyó Gritar, or No One Heard the Scream, both in the year 2021. El Techo de Cristal, the glass ceiling, does not have a home video release in the US, but it was screened on La Dos, or Televisión Española Dos, in 2017. The boutique label Cauldron Films released Murder in a Blue World, or in Spanish, Una Gota de Sangre para Morir Amando, in a special edition with booklet and artwork from the original posters and VHS releases. The US VHS of the 1980s titled the film as Clockwork Terror and marketed it as though it were a sequel to Kubrick's 1971 A Clockwork Orange. Murder in a Blue World was the title given to the unedited film released in the UK in the early 2000s. As fans, critics, and scholars around the globe reassess his body of work, 22 films, this feature, remastered and released in late 2022, deserves reappraisal and recognition as a unique visual manifestation of the brutality towards the marginalized during the final years of the Franco dictatorship. So, as you can see, these are the different posters, and obviously this film, they emphasize the split personality. These 2 films with Carmen Sevilla, Techo de Cristal, and this is the film I'm presenting on. That's the VHS box, and a new Italian release. The original poster doesn't even have the actress from the film on the cover, and yeah, this is the new release that just came out. So they emphasized the drop of blood from the original Spanish title. So, The Clockwork Terror. Okay, we'll leave it there. In La Naranja Prohibida, or The Forbidden Orange, a 2021 Spanish documentary on the screening of La Naranja Mecánica, or A Clockwork Orange, in Valladolid in 1975, actor Malcolm McDowell comments that he was surprised to see his character of Alex played by a woman in Murder in a Blue World. This leads me to believe that he likely did not view the film at any great length. The first thing one notices is that the plot of De la Iglesia's film is quite different from that of Kubrick. Nevertheless, after seeing A Clockwork Orange 7 or 8 times in London, the director added scenes to his film that were, in his own estimation, an homage to and not plagiarism of Kubrick's work. De la Iglesia stated in interviews that he was hurt by accusations of imitation in Spain by audiences and critics that had not actually seen A Clockwork Orange, which of course this film everyone knows. Both films have a futuristic setting and an element of science fiction, qualities not typical of Spanish cinema at the time. In A Clockwork Orange, 1971, which is based on Anthony Burgess's 1962 novel of the same name, the juvenile delinquents speak in a slang the author dubbed nadsat, Russian for teen, which mixes Russian vocabulary with Cockney slang. There is no such invention in Murder in a Blue World, which presents a society that takes all its cues from television and nourishes itself with a mysterious blue beverage. Kubrick's youth unwind by drinking milk laced with barbiturates. A Clockwork Orange seeks to reform criminals through daily injections of dietary supplements and exposure to violent images on a screen. This belief that cinematic violence could spawn actual violence among youth even caused the director to pull his films from cinema in Britain after several lawyers had connected juvenile violence to Kubrick's film. De la Iglesia includes a medical center where Dr. Victor Sender, played by Jean Sorel, attempts to reform violent criminals through shock therapy treatment. The doctor remarks in a television interview regarding aggression that the treatment works better if the offenders are young. And so these are obviously the images of the gang in Clockwork Orange and the the films. And then this is the equivalent in the Spanish film, but they're not actually forced to view anything, it's just shock treatment. So I will get off that slide. The most obvious parallel between the two films is the four youth gang members. The Droogs, or Droogies, in A Clockwork Orange are the film's protagonists, in particular their leader Alex, who is also the narrator. They dress in white outfits with black hats, boots, and codpieces, yet when they commit acts of ultraviolence, they wear masks with a phallic proboscis. When the youth enter the home of a writer and his wife, whom they brutalize while belting out Singing in the Rain, they leave the man unable to walk, and the wife dies several months after they have abused her, an act that Alex cruelly forced the husband to watch. De La Iglesia largely reproduces this scene with a wealthy, futuristic husband and wife and their young boy. As the family watches TV, the presenter announces that next they will show Stanley Kubrick's A Clockwork Orange. So there's definitely reference to A Clockwork Orange. So you have the four youth in the Spanish film, and then this is the futuristic family, and then they're watching TV announcing A Clockwork Orange, and then of course the director. So just at this moment, the four young delinquents enter the home and begin smashing all the glass furnishings, including the flat screen television monitor. These youth dress in black leather outfits and motorcycle helmets with yellow tinted visors. They drag off the husband with a whip around his neck, insulting him for his wealth, and the mother is led to another room, though we never see or learn what happened to either of them. David, played by Christopher Mitchum, son of Hollywood icon Robert Mitchum, attempts to comfort the young child before smashing anything that remains. We later learn that David is only motivated by his desire for money. He does not seem to derive pleasure from the violence, and he is not the leader of the gang, so his role is actually quite different from that of Alex. So he's not the protagonist of the film. We'll see who is shortly. Aside from this film, he also appeared in the 1972 Spanish film Un Verano para Matar, or Summertime Killer, directed by Antonio Isasmendi. In 1973's Ajuste de Cuentas. In English, it was translated as to Cauldron of Death, or Rico the Mean Machine. The Italian title, which is very jolly, is Un tipo con una faccia strana ti cerca per ucciderte. So, directed by Tullio De Micheli. These are in the style of Italian crime films or poliziotteschi. Mitchum also had leading roles in three well-funded 80s films by Spanish director Jesus Franco, Angel of Death, Faceless, and Dark Mission. So yeah, these are just some images. You can see how his films were marketed differently. The press book, and as a horror film, which it isn't. And you know, he claims that he was one of the top 5 most popular Hollywood actors in Asia at the time of the release of this film. And so here he's in a teen magazine with David Cassidy, and this is from Thailand. So who knows? Okay, sorry. While the family was watching TV, the news report speaks of the death of a 19-year-old young man. They speculate that the person responsible is a male serial killer with homosexual tendencies who only kills young men between the ages of 17 and 25. Eloy de la Iglesia subverts this assessment as we soon learn that it is actually Ana Vernia, a young nurse played by Sue Lyon. And so you may recognize her as the actress who played Lolita in Kubrick's 1962 film. Sue Lyon, who picks up these young men, makes love to them in her large home and then murders them with medical instruments. When Victor later suggests to Anna, this is Jean Sorel, that the killer could be a woman, she ignores him and scoffs at his idea that he might be able to change anyone's actions with shock therapy. In Dario Argento's opera prima, The Italian Giallo, The Bird with the Crystal Plumage, the killer, who is assumed by all to be a male attacker of women, also turns out to be a woman who is suffering from a mental disorder due to trauma. We do not receive an explanation for Anna's behavior, however, only that her parents were hippies who died when she was young and left her a large home and lots of money. They committed suicide after their attempts to improve the world failed. Responding to accusations of imitation in his film, De La Iglesia responded that, quote, "There are only a few formal points in common. You tell me what the connection is between the story of a psychotic nurse who is driven to killing people due to a fascist impulse for perfection and that of a youth gang from London." Okay. Although A Clockwork Orange was prohibited in Spain under Franco, the censors allowed Murder in a Blue World, or Una Gota de Sangre, because it was not set in Spain. The female protagonist is not a Spanish actress, and they believed that it reflected an unrealistic future that no one would think to imitate. Kubrick's Paths of Glory, 1957, and Lolita, 1962, had also been banned in Spain. In a similar way, Spain had banned William Friedkin's The Exorcist, 1973, but allowed Joan Bosch's Exorcismo, 1975, because it is set in Britain and features a non-Catholic minister. A number of Spaniards were, in fact, able to travel to Perpignan to see these films. The priest in De la Iglesias' 1978 film, El Sacerdote, which is set before the death of the dictator, condemned those who traveled to France to see these forbidden films. The original title, as I mentioned, Una Gota de Sangre para Morir Amando, or A Drop of Blood to Die Loving, refers to the way that Ana murders her male prey, whom she sees as social outcasts. She meets two of her victims by chance and cruises for the other two. She invites the men back to her beautiful house, coaxes them upstairs to her bedroom, makes love to them, and then as a nurse, lovingly ends their suffering by stabbing them in the heart with thin metal surgical instruments. For Kimberly Lindbergh, in her essay, Reinventing Lolita in a Blue World, this science fiction film deconstructs Kubrick's work by placing the actress who played Lolita, Sue Lyon, in the role of the sadistic aggressor rather than that of the victim. Her first victim is a young man with a leg brace, Tony, who she meets at an art auction for an original print of Flash Gordon. Her next victim will be an older man named Bruno. And she always listens to their heartbeat before she kills them. It's just her ritual. Her next victim will be an older man named Bruno with a good physique who models underwear on television. When we see his commercial on TV, the camera zooms in on his midsection. Andy Willis notes that the erotic imagery in Murder in a Blue World is clearly the gaze of a gay man towards other male subjects. When Anna brings Bruno home, he takes off his shirt and brags about his physique. She fondles his chest. The sexualization is of the male body. And you can see her hidden off to the right, and she's reading Lolita. She dresses as an elderly woman and blends in at a garden terrace where wealthy women are met by young gigolos whom they can take home, essentially a male meat market. As couples are paired off, Anna hides behind a copy of Vladimir Nabokov's 1955 novel Lolita, an indirect nod to Kubrick's 1962 film, in which she, of course, played the title character. She chooses the underwear model, Bruno, who receives the same fate as the others in her home. And so I took several shots of this because I thought it was one of the more important parts of the film. And so she takes him home and she's still reading the book. And he tells her, I wish you were blonde, beautiful, and young. And then he goes on to brag about how he keeps himself in great shape and all this. And she reveals that, okay, actually, you get what you wanted, which ends in the drop of blood. So that's where the title comes from. And yeah. So after this is actually the cover of the Blu-ray where she had this sort of triumphant walk after, and it's a really beautifully shot screen where she has the bloody dress after she kills him. Okay, after this, she dresses as a man and enters a bar filled with characters that are coded as gay or lesbian. After rejecting the advances of another woman, she is able to convince a young man to come home with her. So this is the bar. And he has enjoyed spending time with her, but is confused when she attempts to take him upstairs. He is often lonely and would like to change. Anna insists that he should never change and that he must accept who he is. In her mind, she will end his suffering by killing him. She tells him that even after he has made love to her, he will not change and will continue to be lonely, because he does not accept himself the way he is. After his death, we learn that his name is Roman Mendoza, an 18-year-old biology student. So I have quite a few pictures because this is visually striking. So these are all the weird colored drinks that are supposed to do something to you in the future. So this is the woman that tries to pick her up, and this is Roman and their encounter. So she takes him back home. They dance the waltz, and he's ready to go home. And she's like, "Well, wait, let's go upstairs." So she convinces him, but promises that she will stay dressed as a male. And So that's his first experience, and then of course she kills him as well. David, Chris Mitchum, was spying on Anna and her victim from behind a curtain in the living room. He started following her after he saw her dump Tony's body in the Rio Manzanares, in the Madrid River. When Anna sees David lurking outside of her gate, she dresses as a maid and believes she is luring him inside the house to dispose of him as well. So she always disguises herself for her victims. Once indoors, he reveals the music box, which plays Beethoven's Fiordalisa and contains the sharp medical instruments, revealing to her that he has seen her killed. He does not want to turn her in, rather he only intends to extort money. He will receive a total of 3 payments, the last of which is during a New Year's Eve Mass. And so he knows what she's up to. As David leaves the Mass, he is pursued by his former mates in a dune buggy. He is riding the new motorcycle that he bought with the money from which he blackmailed Anna. After a rather lengthy pursuit, he crashes into a Christmas tree. The gang's leader, Mick, taunts David with the handle of his whip as if it were a phallus. He beats him brutally and then sinks his metal-spiked armband into his groin area. It's quite violent, this part. The following morning, an ambulance transports him to the hospital. Dr. Sinder believes that he can reform him with shock therapy since he is still young. The doctor has been seeking a relationship with Anna, but she has only feigned interest in order to benefit herself professionally. Anna vehemently protests when she learns that he intends to change David. She transports him to an operating room on a stretcher. So this is when she greets him and basically says, you know, congratulations, it's the last day of the year. It's New Year's Eve, but she really means the last day of your life. And so this scene is beautifully framed in red, where she pushes him down the hall in the stretcher. Once there, she explains to him that she will not let them change him. Anna rejoices that it is the final day of the year. She assures David that she did not kill those boys because she enjoyed it. They were happy with me. The knife reached their hearts smoothly, like a last caress. They were all dead long before I killed them. She asks, "Are you afraid? Don't be afraid of me." She kisses him affectionately while he is mostly naked and unable to move, before stabbing him lovingly in the heart. Dr. Sinder immediately walks in as Anna lies over David's body. She looks up at him saying, "Happy New Year." She then confesses that she has killed a man and begins to sob. She realizes that David was alive when she killed him, not dead like the others, at least in her mind. So he knows what the instruments are, but he's paralyzed and can't move. And so she listens to his heart, kisses him, and then the doctor comes in and she has this mad look on her face, you know, Happy New Year. So I'll skip this last part. So just like the vagabond who is tortured by Alex and the Drugis, who says, "I don't want to live in this world because there's no law and order. The young don't respect the old." Death is the only way out in these two horrifying dystopic worlds of the future. Anna comforts her victims before she murders them, as she would as a nurse. She's sacrificing people who are outcast. There's a fascist element of eugenics. In Kubrick, the killings and the violence occur sadistically as a form of sport. Dr. Sinder, Victor, had prepared a New Year's Eve dinner for a group of older reformed criminals, that we see here, that he believed to be cured of their violent tendencies. The room has a two-way mirror and appears to be a large TV screen. The men behave very politely as they are waited on by servants in powdered wigs. They soon begin to argue, and each man stabs someone else. This is the ending for the subplot of the hospital's attempt to cure criminal urges through electroshock therapy. Nevertheless, the main story is that of Anna, who believes that no one should be changed. People should be accepted for who they are. As a nurse, she is accustomed to alleviating suffering. She has injected patients with palliatives that allow them to drift off into death without feeling pain. Anna believes that when she stabs her victims in the heart with surgical precision, that she is setting them free from their suffering in this world. She typically makes love to them, or in the case of David, kisses them passionately before ending their lives. So I ended up cutting a huge chunk. So well, anyways, this is this ending, which goes very badly, of course, and that's kind of like an epilogue to the film. But I wanted to speak a bit about Sue Lyon because I think she's a very interesting actress, and she made, actually, this was her third film that she made in Spain. So she made a Western in 1967-68, Four Road Out, but there were also some other interesting films. The reason why I thought this was interesting because of the same white dress and sort of the the trauma scene after her lover has died. And this movie was, Tarot, was made the same year as Murder in a Blue World. And it's interesting because she's married to Fernando Rey, but it also features Gloria Graham, who was of course a famous Hollywood actress. And so Gloria Graham and Sue Lyon were both sort of exiled from Hollywood for different reasons. But I won't go into that. I mean, her story, I'll just say, was incredibly tragic and has never been told. Like, there's no biography about her. So just to finish, when Alex in A Clockwork Orange is released from the treatment center, he is told by the writer, "They have turned you into something other than a human being. You have no power of choice any longer. A man who cannot choose ceases to be a man," end quote. The expression, a clockwork or mechanical orange, is from Cockney slang, but it essentially means something that is no longer natural. When Alex appears on a stage before an audience and is forced to resist violence and sexual oppression, the prison chaplain observes that, quote, "the subject does good, even though he is driven by evil. We aren't concerned with motives or higher ethics. We are only concerned about crime and overcrowded prisons," end quote. The minister wants to empty the prisons in order to fill them with political dissidents. The writer is worried about slinking into authoritarianism. Quote, "People will sacrifice liberty for a quieter life." Alex's behavior is modified through negative conditioning. He has not lost the urge for violence. He merely feels pain and sickness when he acts upon his feelings. Burgess likens this to the advocates of aversion therapy in Britain, the burning out of the criminal impulse at the source, which is what they're doing here. If young delinquents could be, with the aid of electric shocks, drugs, or pure Pavlovian conditioning, rendered incapable of performing antisocial acts, then our streets would once more be safe at night. Society, as ever, was put first. The delinquents, of course, are not quite human beings," end quote. For Alexander Walker, A Clockwork Orange never sets out to explore the moral issue of violence. Kubrick's first priority lies with the moral issue of eradicating free will. Dr. Cinder, in Murder in a Blue World, likewise seeks to change the behaviors of delinquent youth, albeit through electroshock therapy. De La Iglesia's films will feature stories of juvenile criminals, drug addicts, prostitutes, and gay men throughout the rest of his directing career. In Murder in a Blue World, we have four men that are all attractive but marginalized and need to be, quote, corrected in this futuristic dystopic society. Anna cannot bear to see individuals who cannot accept who they are. She does not want anyone to feel pressured to change or have it imposed upon them, in the case of the electroshock therapy. However, difference is not something that had been tolerated during the Franco regime, something that Basque director Eloy de la Iglesia had certainly experienced as an openly gay man and devout communist. In this film, both he and protagonist Sue Lyon, a victim of brutal Hollywood exploitation, are able to express their anger and frustration toward the social structures by which they were constrained.
Pasamos a la segunda presentación y después hacemos